Conservancy District Board of Directors meeting for June 22nd, 2024. A request that everyone please bring the chatter to a...
We're starting.
We're starting. I'm starting with or without you. So, obviously it is hot, so we're going to keep this meeting to an hour or less. We will begin with public comment. I request that people keep their comments to 3 minutes or less. At about the 2:45 mark, I will give you a note to just say that you need to be close to wrapping up. We'll try to keep public comments to 15 plus or minus minutes. Any members of the public wishing to make comment today?
Is this the time to correct the minutes, or do I wait till then?
If you have a suggested correction, this would be a good time.
My name is spelled wrong. I'm Rebecca something else, and it's supposed to be Rebecca Ball.
All right. Well, we will make sure that we correct the minutes to reflect the proper spelling of your name. I apologize for that. Any other comments? All right. We'll move on to the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Is now the time to ask one small question?
This public comments, that's what it's for, sure.
Comments.
Well, that's okay.
How do I get my boat off my boat lift? The water is dropped a foot, and I got, you can see on the wood. I don't know what this. Where are you at? I'm terrible on that. Okay, this is the marina. You go out the marina, turn left on the first cove.
He's in Lakewood.
Lakewood Drive. But I'm not in the wide cove. The cove goes like this. And I can't get my boat out.
I know the water is a lot lower already, a lot sooner, and unfortunately, we can thank Mother Nature for the temperatures and the lack of rain. Yeah.
I know what I'm reading.
Yeah.
I need a solution.
Yeah.
Can the marina help you? They've got the winch and all that.
You might check with the marina. They do have some equipment that might be able to help you. So I think it's worth an exploration, and certainly we appreciate any opportunity to serve the local businesses.
In a good old-fashioned rain dance.
What is the elevation right now?
Probably. I have to look at the other. I push it to 8 inches.
How much?
About 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches down, which is pretty early for this time of year.
Yeah.
But the weather we've had has been unprecedented. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
When we used to be able to do kayaking, and they'd come up on the kind of side and look for kayaks, and now we've got that parking way back there where you can't walk. Is there any reason why we cut off access? I mean, the kayaks are pretty easy for somebody to come along and take, as opposed to not coming.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not.
I did not know that. The kayaks at the beach. I mean, I think you could probably
Yeah,
climb
you can
across the road.
just go across the road. I don't have a problem with that. The boats was just because it gets so busy out here.
Yeah.
I understand that, but when it was like no parking, we had to park around us.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. So, no issue with the kayaks. People can see them, and you usually aren't going that fast to impact.
And they don't have a propeller.
Grandma's feet.
Right.
How about that?
Any final public comments and/or questions?
Will that be in the next publication so everyone can see that?
We will. That'll be reflected in the minutes, and we can make sure in the next newsletter that it's reflected in
What's
that.
your name?
Follow me down.
Paul McDowell.
I don't know.
Very good. Any final comments, questions? We'll move on to approval of the May 23rd, 2024 board meeting minutes as amended. Any additional questions, clarifications on those? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved by Steve. Do I have a second? By Malcolm. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition or abstentions?
You and I.
Yeah. Actually, you're right.
Is it me and you?
It doesn't matter. The two mics abstain, so motion carries. Next item is Resolution 06-2401, land purchase refusal for Slawbau, and please forgive me if I mispronounce that. All right, thank you. Adam, you want to talk about
Use
this?
this if you want. We got one over here.
Yeah.
I was contacted by the city of Bloomington. Well, actually, I met Ray when they purchased the house here and kind of found out about these issues with the survey and survey lines kind of going through the property. I was contacted by the city of Bloomington attorney Chris Wheeler about the issue. According to our lease with the city of Bloomington Utilities, for them to sell any land, they have to give us the first right of refusal. This particular piece of property is literally half of Greg's house and a 12-foot buffer along the back side of it. The house currently is a non-riparian owner. They do pay sublease. Even with this 0.12 acres, mostly encompassing the house, they would still remain non-riparian and still have a sublease. So there's really no loss of revenue for the lake, and there's no benefit to the lake to have half of Greg's house there on the property. So the city of Bloomington did pass a resolution at their last board meeting saying they would like to sell this parcel to Gregory Slabbaugh, and essentially we had to write a resolution as well refusing the purchase of that. So resolution 0624-01 lays out that the city was aware of the encroachment. They recently conducted a survey, and it's marked as Exhibit A in the resolution. The city has to either give us first right of refusal or sell what they believe is the highest and best use of the tract of land. The city believes that the best use is to sell it to the property owners. And then after discussion with myself and Mike and the other committee members or officers, also believe that there's no benefit to the LLCD kind of dealing with this property. So this resolution states that we would refuse the sale of the 0.12 acres in the amount of $5,800 and defer that sale to Gregory. Is that about?
Yeah, it's accurate. I'm happy to answer any questions or how we got here, or I'm happy to go over it. It's been several months that we've been dealing with this, and finally there was City of Bloomington Utilities resolution last month, and obviously now it's in the forefront here. It's kind of one of the last steps, hopefully one of the last steps, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the process or how we came about this position.
Any questions from the board regarding what we're being
Who
considered?
gets the money? Does that go to the city of Bloomington?
City of Bloomington
Okay.
Utilities is sell.
Yeah, it's the property, as the technical property owner, they get it. Our lease agreement, any property that's owned by the city within, that we lease is, we get first right of refusal, but obviously there's no particular benefit.
So there's no way we can get $1,500 for them?
Unfortunately not.
I'm sure the city would give it to us, but they'd probably charge us like $6,000. So,
There's not other questions. I said entertain a motion to pass resolution 0624-01.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and second, but we do have a question.
Yeah, before we vote, I'd like to go, this is kind of strange, but I'd like to have the vote and then I'd like to make some comments. Is that okay?
Unless the rest of the board has any objection to that, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Who moved in second? I'm sorry, last
I
moved.
moved.
Steve second. Any additional discussion before we vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Malcolm.
As far as I know, this is the first time that the City of Bloomington Utilities has sold some of their land on the lake. Is that correct?
Disposal side.
Is that correct?
Well, I don't know by then, that was.
That was a private sale from
So I think, first of all, I wanted to make sure that the vote went through and that the Slagos have their property and all that, because I don't want to hold that up at all. But I find this both exciting and terrifying, and I don't know. It's terrifying because one could envision then some freeholder that doesn't own all the way, doesn't have riparian rights. Somebody comes in and buys the property between them and the lake and builds something there. And this opens that as a possibility. It's also exciting because perhaps people could go to the CBU and buy the riparian rights. They buy the land up to the shore. They would no longer have to pay dock fees and so on. So, I mean, all of this is implicated.
But we have, I mean, just by the fact that we have first right of refusal, we are able to sort of regulate those concerns. this is an exceptional circumstance, so I wouldn't think that would, to me, that doesn't seem like much of a concern.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't seem like a huge precedent because it's a unique circumstance. Greg's still not going to have riparian rights, so we're not, the Conservancy District won't be losing any income. So I think the precedent as far as why we as a Conservancy District, didn't implement our first right of refusal, it's a pretty tight,
I understand Brett's comment there, that I hadn't thought of that. That is a good point. But it also opens the possibility that perhaps the Conservancy could buy the lake from the CBU. I don't know if we want to or why we would want to, but just I'm feeling that this is all implied by what we just did.
Sure. I mean, I think that's always an opportunity, but I have a suspicion that the rate that would be charged to purchase would be substantial. So, which would have
The city, if they wanted to do something, they have the right to eminent domain because they own it. Because they can say this is for the public good. And that's ultimately, I think, and I'm not an attorney, but I think that's ultimately their call. At least it has been in other places.
Yeah, I'm not implying it. It's an interesting precedent.
Yeah, well, it's a thought, and when you look at it, some of it there's no rhyme or reason to it. Some people own out in the lake, others do not. Some people have riparian rights, some do not. I do know that people are, at least some people I know, are interested in buying that section, so then they don't have to deal with permits every time they want to do something out there and so on. But I don't know if the city's wanting to sell,
I think in this case, they were worried that if they got tied up and went to court, the court would actually force the sale because this property has been located on the structure has been.
Yeah, but I mean, apart from that is what I was talking about. But I think there's a reason, though, too, in that when the lake fills up, they don't want to. The city doesn't have to worry about people's structures getting flooded, and then that's why there's this bathtub ring, although it does look like there are some places where, how come they have riparian rights and I don't? So.
I think we have to go back to.
I mean, it is what it is.
To understand, so.
Okay.
And just a few comments, just going through the process, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, but the city was very resistant to selling it to us, and as Evan said, yes, that was kind of their legal recommendation, is that if this went to court, we tried to take them to court, that would be the court's ultimate decision when we sell it to us. They made us get appraisal after appraisal after appraisal, come up with this value. Each meeting, they basically refused the value until we got more appraisals, and finally at the last meeting, I think they were just beat down, but they said, okay, that's the value. So if they were to offer land, I think that it would be at a premium, which obviously you would expect. So, it certainly took months of going back and forth, all these meetings, multiple appraisals that they made us pay for and everything. So, yeah, they were very resistant, but I certainly may offer some hope in the future, but they were very difficult. Well, I don't say difficult because they ended up passing it, but it was a challenging several months for us as we went along.
Well, congratulations on being one step closer.
Good to have a whole house, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, and my phone died on me, so Treasurer's Report. Adam, will you take care of that for us?
Yes, since Debbie Ladyman is not here, I will go through, start with the May financial highlights. On our balance sheet, our cumulative conservancy improvement fund, we have $102,760. This is kind of earmarked for capital improvements around the park. So we really don't have any projects planned with that. We're letting that build up for large capital improvements around the park. With our construction account, we have $139,757. What remaining in there. After this next payment, that essentially will be depleted, and that is where we were talking about we will have to fund the remaining portion of the dredging project out of the general fund. We have been running the cash flows, and we do not see an issue with that. We do have plenty of monies to cover that. We won't ever be in dire straits, so it's a good condition with that. But it is close to $400,000 above and beyond what was in that construction account. Our total current assets with checking and savings in all of our funds is $1,307,864. When we include our fixed assets, our total assets are $2,046,000. When we move on to the income, our largest piece of income in May was $52,690 in watercraft permit sales. A big bulk of that was from the first closeout at the marina. Seems like a lot of people weren't buying passes, and they all came within that first month to get their passes. So a lot of that was a marina closeout. The other income that we had are launch fees and $7,000. That's strictly our launch fees at the ramp. Wakeboard fees in the amount of $3,000, and subleases in the amount of $2,600. And park admission fees and annual passes we sold almost $11,000 in May for a total income of $81,432. On our expense side, we had total expenses of $257,000. The bulk of this can be broken down into a handful of items. One, we had the first payment for our sediment mitigation. That was primarily mobilization of the barge, getting the barge here, assembling it, the pipeline, getting everything set up. That was in the amount of $128,250. We also had our first bond payment of the year that funded the first dredging project in 2022 and 2023. That was in the amount of $41,000. $10,000 to purchase our fireworks. We spent $16,000 on the lake submerged vegetation treatment. And then we did ramp repairs, $12,500. We actually went blacktop from the ramp up past the office, kind of the interchange there. That was a desperate need. So total expenses, $257,518. Currently, compared to last year, we're about $53,000 ahead in revenue. A lot of that can be attributed to our other income of the eclipse, which is essentially $32,000 that we brought into the eclipse in the month of May, and then we do have a sale of the Komatsu excavator and the bulldozer. So that brings the total income difference of $53,000 compared to last year. With our expenses, we have spent $26,000 more, and that is primarily attributed to our sediment mitigation. Time to date compared to last year, we spent $26,000 more on the dredging operation. Currently, we brought in a total of 18.4 of our budgeted income for 2024. That being said, at the beginning of the season, we have not received any taxes yet. So we will start receiving taxes from Monroe and Brown County probably within the next week, as they generally come at the end of June or the beginning of July. So that's when we'll really see the bulk of our income start coming in. The percent of budget that we have spent so far is 34%. Any questions on that? I can move on to the report of claims next. The dollar amount for the reported claims was $246,095.71. Again, primarily because of the issues that I talked about earlier. Our sediment mitigation was $120,000 and change. The bond payment, $41,000. Vegetation control, $16,000. The ramp repairs, etc. And then just the general payroll. Are there any questions on the allowance of vouchers? If not,
Do we have a motion to approve the claims as presented?
Motion.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. That takes us to manager's report.
all right, first we will talk about the sediment management project. I think it's very visible, the dredging that's going on out there. It's pretty awesome, the equipment and everything, and the rate at which they are dredging. They actually brought the equipment in the end of April, beginning of May. They completed assembly on May 2nd here at Earl Point Park, and then launched the equipment about a week later to set up. The first spot that they dredged was the little peninsula that they couldn't use with the equipment last year at the mouth of East Blossom Creek. There's approximately 10,000 yards that was removed from that area, which means now you can come out to the end of the vegetation and just cut north and deep water out of the creek, which is great. They've also removed approximately 13,000 yards of material in what we were dubbing the zones 2 and 3, moving north towards Point Eidolon. So in that less than 3-week period, they were able to remove 23,500 yards. So they will be averaging 30,000 plus yards a month if we can keep at these rates, and that really kind of pushes the end of the project up a lot earlier than we were thinking, potentially towards the end of August, that they would be complete with this dredging. They're currently nearing the tip of Point Eidolon. I don't know if you've been out there yet, Malcolm, but depending on the view that you're looking at, I mean, they are right at that area. And then also they did additional pre-construction bathymetric surveys, meaning measuring the depth. And a lot of those original reports included sediment loads that were already at 5 feet plus deep in those zones. So based on their current calculations and bathymetric studies, they believe that by the end of August, we will be able to get everything through Zone 4 and into Zone 5 in this year's project. So it's looking like we may be able to get the bulk of that entire East Bay at 5.5 to 6 feet clear to the Lotus maintenance lines. So that'd be, spanning essentially 3 districts, or 2 districts there. So if we can knock out all through Zone 4 and through Zone 5, it will be an amazing accomplishment for the district. We'll gain back so much ground in that area. So that is a huge deal. On Monday, we are going out, or we hired Aquatic Control to come out and do a bathymetric survey on the area that Heartland Dredging completed in 2022 and 2023. And aside from increasing our safe boating depth areas, the other goal is to have a deep sediment capture basin right at the mouth there of the creek so we can consolidate the material. So increasing the boating safety, and then also if we can capture more sediment in that localized area instead of doing these huge east end 120,000 yard projects at a time, we can get into a maintenance schedule where every couple of years we'll be able to come in and do a project more localized, not on that same cost scale. So that's one of the biggest things that we're going to be looking at. So once we get this data from Aquatic Control, we'll send it to our engineers at Christopher Burt, and they can look at the pre-bathymetric survey, what the depths were at the completion of work in 2022 and 2023, and then they can actually tell how much sediment has gained back in these areas since then. And there's areas that have already gotten 12 plus inches of sediment just since 2022 in those areas. So when we did our sediment transport study, prior to starting any of this work, they were estimating about 40,000 yards of sediment would be settling out in that East Bay annually. Ideally, once we run this report from Christopher Burt, we would see that number increase. If that were to go, 60, 70 plus thousand, and that means that capture basin is working incredibly effective, and that we should be able to get into a maintenance schedule and kind of prevent a lot of that sediment from spreading out through the entire lake and kind of being a consolidated area where we can go in and do smaller projects. So that will be a huge benefit instead of just watching the whole East Bay shrink and then the shallow areas kind of coming up everywhere. I'm sure some have amnesia, but as of 2021, prior to dredging, I don't know if people remember like the shallow area movies where that kind of half moon circle, and there was an area about 2 feet that almost went halfway between the creek mouth to Reed Point. So we couldn't even drive our barges at that point. We'd almost have to go all the way around to Reed Point and cut back. You couldn't take boats there. So now you have that whole area for boating. So it is amazing how much we have knocked out in these couple of years with that. Again, the big thing, they think they get through Zone 4 and into Zone 5, which would be pretty amazing on that. Currently, we are working on a request for proposals for the creation of the pond wetland. I've received information from Dan Behavior Resource Group, who's pretty big on that, and also a company called EcoLogic, who is a local company, but they do statewide projects and are really renowned for their creations. They've done big projects with IU, other wetland creation areas, remediation, work a lot with Sycamore Land Trust. And when they were out there, they were very excited about that parcel for the creation of a wetland, with how visible it is, and then with the raised platform for viewing off of South Shore Drive on the causeway there. They had really cool ideas about how they can stagger the different plants and tear it out, like larger stuff in the back, and play with the zones and kind of do different areas of like flowering and really good plants. So they think they can essentially use it as a project to highlight their work and their ability to create these very scenic areas. So we will be approving that request for proposal at the next board meeting, and then receiving the proposals on that, which we will probably approve in September. I think the cost of that will be under $200,000, and that will include the creation of the wetland in 2025, and then a 3-year monitoring and mitigation program, which is required by our permitting. So in 2025 we plant, 2026 we have to start doing monitoring. We have to make sure like it's not getting taken over by cattails or invasives, that the plants survive and are thriving. So we have a minimum of 3 years monitoring, and then if it's deemed a success, we'd be able to get out of the monitoring, but they can go up to 5 years of monitoring. That location we've had surveyed as well, and it will also be placed into a conservation easement, saying that it will remain a wild area for the wetland. So it was pretty great talking with EcoLogic, and I think they can make a very beautiful, highly visible spot out here that people would love to see and will come out to check it out and really showcase the work out here. That was kind of one of their goals all along, is removing sediment, enhancing water quality, and actually finally creating a beautiful product that we can be known for out here that's both beneficial to water quality, has no impact, still allows the flood water retention, just ecological uplift. People are there, the birds, it should be a very nice area. So we're keeping on moving. Again, they're nearing Point Eidalon, so that is into zone 3, then they will be kind of moving up along the west side of Point Eidalon, and they do think they will be able to get the majority of all these areas done this year. I know the barge is loud, it's belt driven on the drive, but hopefully people can appreciate, especially like on the west side of Iowa and stuff, that you're gonna have to deal with that noise for a little bit, but ultimately you'll be able to shoot straight out from docks there and have that whole east bay for boating clear up to the maintenance line. And as well as vegetation, we should see a decrease in treatment cost. The lotus really doesn't grow in less than, or more than like a foot and a half of water. So we really should see the vegetation stopping at that lotus line because of the depth of the dredging. So we really should see a big decrease in the cost of the emergent treatment in that area. Any questions on the board?
I know Rebecca last time at the meeting had mentioned that it was building up silt on the east end, and that was supposed to be scraped out. And so has that been handled, or?
It is in process. So we've talked with IDEM. By in process, Dredge America said as soon as they're done with their essentially bringing out a swamp buggy, which is an excavator that's on pontoon tracks that they can go out there. And as soon as they're done with their project at Cedar Lake, they're bringing that here to lower that area. So then I know there is sediment that you can see in that area. It is below the normal water mark, although when we have days that were 6 to 8 inches of water down, you are going to see sediment in there. That's kind of part of that wetland, is you do have that fluctuation of water there. Even on the east end of the wetlands that we do have, we're down, so ground starts to get exposed. That's kind of the nature of wetlands, and that really won't impact the vegetation being able to thrive. And actually, a lot of the vegetation really needs those kind of seasonalities of being exposed. So they are bringing down their swamp buggy to remove that area. We'll report back once
Thank you.
Don't laugh at this. But someone from my District 4 had asked about dropping the lake to do shoreline maintenance, and that was a couple months ago. I made the assumption that at this point in time, we can't really recommend that, because I still don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, I mean, so really talking with the engineers, it's hard to get a hard answer from them. The question that was brought up by the board was, what are the negatives of dropping the lake? And talking with engineers without knowing like the exact depth of where the riprap ends, it essentially said, if you drop it below the riprap, you're going to increase erosion from wave action. So if you are going to drop it, do it in that small, like 2 to 3 foot range, and hopefully expose enough for people to do work without getting a lot of the sediment exposed. So there is erosion that really just, I think it comes back to if we are going to do it every couple of years to allow for the maintenance, and then just need to decide that.
But there's a lot of area that's not riprap.
As a board, yeah.
So you're going to get erosion there.
Yeah, so there's still erosion going on. And there's been years in the past, kind of pretty nearly, 6-7 foot drawdowns, which are very risky with fish kills, and I don't know why that's allowed to happen, but you don't want to go that far because you risk like oxygen level depletion and expose so much level. But I do think in that 2 to 3 foot, most of the areas of the riprap are still going to be covered and protected. And the biggest thing is if we try one, last time we did it, we couldn't even get it drawdown. We opened up all the gates and the lake came up 6 inches. We left it open for a couple of months. So if it's raining, it's not even possible to do the drawdown.
Well, so the conclusion is,
Maybe. Maybe.
further discussion was made and decision to postpone a decision at this time. Okay, I'll pass that along to them.
All right. Any other question on the dredging? We did put more flags out there to increase the marking, so hopefully people can see that. There has been a time or two where people have hit the pipe with their props. One of the things that I would say is always approach that crossing area slow and with caution, because when they are adding pipeline, usually it only takes them a couple hours, but there are times where those flags, that pipeline gets dragged. So when you're approaching this area, look at it, and if you see the pipe up on half of that, go to the deeper side. We've had seen some boats just flying out of the creek. I don't think they're district residents. I think the further up the creek was hot rodding across that area, and it is just don't do it. It's dangerous.
The flags help a lot. That really sticks out as to where to go. Because before it was like, where's the cut, So, thank you.
But then also following up, we had some, this is kind of along with the dredging and sediment management. We did have concerns about the exposed areas on the riprap point, primarily from the snailers, I think, dragging rock down. Ross and myself went out with a barge and were actually able to kind of reclaim all that rock and then come out from Lane with the excavator and pull all that rock back up. So we didn't have the point and the sides that were exposed. The riprap is now there and reinforced.
Let's move on to vegetation control.
We did do the first round of submerged vegetation control, aquatic control did. Do you know the date on that?
June 10th.
Was June what?
10th.
10th? It was a Wednesday, I believe. Yeah.
It wasn't Wednesday.
It wasn't Wednesday. It was primarily around Idlon, South Shore, what's yours? Woodland, Lake of the Woods? Lakeview Woods area, and then a few spots where it was bad. We will be doing a secondary treatment for that, and then we will be doing a survey and a emergent treatment along primarily the east end where the emergent vegetation grows, and then into the Chitwood neighborhood through their channel as well.
And they do guarantee the 90% kill with aquatic control. They came back along South Shore Drive, kind of between the porthole and the long causeway. There's a big area that we did not have a good kill of the gray water milfoil. So they did come back free of charge with backpacks and kind of piped that whole area along to get the areas behind the boats and docks that they could not get.
It was super duper duper windy that day.
But yeah.
I was out there, I was like, I don't know, it's either working for you or against you.
Well, it doesn't die off though, so it's guaranteed we'll have it back.
It's still there, it's still hanging there. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's dying or just.
It kind of the leaves fall off and it slowly goes down.
Seems like Eidolon is extremely effective in this. In Melton's area.
At my place, on one side of the dock, it's gone, but the other side, there's still some hanging on.
We'll keep
Whatever.
monitoring that. Again, for the emergent, we'll check all the areas for the emergent spray. We have had some areas too with it's had lots of duckweed and other vegetation that's come in, so we will make sure to kind of knock out those areas as well. Fireworks update. Fireworks will be on Friday, July 5th, with a rain date of Sunday the 7th at dusk out here. We've had donations coming in. Thank you for that. And then we do ask all the boats to stay at 300 yards plus off the shoreline. There's a lot of times they do those water takes quite along the shoreline there. So we're looking forward to a good fireworks show, as it is every year for these folks. And then, according to the trending weather, hopefully we'll have a nice dry and no rain, which we probably will. So fireworks again on the 5th with the rain date of the 7th. If you are on your boats, stop at the mooring area. We'll have Philly's Party Tacos, a barbecue truck, Kona Ice, I believe like an iced coffee and dessert stand as well on the point. So please feel free to stop in and hit up those vendors. It's always crazy in the park on that day. But it's always a very fun event.
Yes. All right, so operational update. I mean, this is really going to be the park mostly. We opened the week before Memorial Day for the beach at the park. That was a pretty good week. Memorial Day weekend was not very busy out here. The weather was not great. And I believe the first 2 weeks of June were also not the nicest either. So kind of got off to a slow start, but then, the skies come in last week. It was just kind of crazy. This week, our numbers looked more like a weekend than a week. And then I think this weekend, I know right now it's not super busy, but 2 o'clock today, I think the beach will be pretty busy. We've continued to deal with just, it seems like more incidents than we've typically had out here. So we are trying to continue to have either myself or 2 people here later into the evening to try and control crowds at the park. But other than that, it's been pretty good so far. And then kind of looking forward, there is something I did want to discuss real quick. I know we've talked a lot about trying to have more income generation and events out here. So I've been kind of looking at different things that we could pursue. And one thing that I kind of found and have been in contact with is the American Powerboat Association, which I think historically did have a race out here. Is very interested in having a race out here again. This would be next May. So the dates that I'm looking at would be like May 10th and 11th. Kind of a kickoff to, racing in Indiana in the month of May. The course would be right off the beach, basically. It'd be a 3/4 mile course. They would race the weekend from, I think, 10 in the morning until 6 in the afternoon. It would be loud. They're not quiet machines. They would pay the on-lake special event fee to be able to participate in that. And then we would have the ability to do any type of spectating, any entry to the park. The park would be closed, so this would be a weekend that really would not, and nothing would be happening here, so we could have entry to the park. They do have races. I went to these races in Three Rivers, Michigan as a child, so we would have the ability to do that. They would want to camp that weekend on the point. Their pits would be on the beach, and that's kind of how it would, look. So like Friday night they'd come out, they'd race Saturday and Sunday, and then they would leave. So that's something that I would like to discuss more, and maybe, when we have multimedia, I can give a little more of a presentation so you can see. They're small boats, they're hydrofoil boats, but it would be something that we would need some volunteers, similar to like the rowing event. We would have to have a no-wake zone that day, obviously, around the beach area. We would need some people to come and kind of ensure that any like residents or people coming for the day obviously aren't spectating, too close, so if someone flies off the track, they're not flying into a pontoon boat. But it's something that I've looked into. They were very interested. I don't know if anyone who's been on the lake remembers them doing it. They said they had done it long ago. I don't know why they stopped or what the kind of feeling is about it, but it is something that I've looked into, and if it is something we want to pursue, I do believe that they would be excited about it. They would manage all the race scheduling and all the, everything with the racing. We would just have the opportunity to do any kind of, entry to the park and spectating for it. Yes?
Do you have any projection of what kind of income we would derive from this event? Because
I have no clue,
all the
honestly,
noise and all that stuff.
how many people would show up. Honestly, I think it's like a very interesting timing-wise, because they were like, oh, early May would be best for us. And I was like, that would really be best for us as well. It's outside of our, normal time frame. So the cons, I guess, would be we would lose that day for a fishing tournament. So that's $100 of the fishing tournament fee, although the on-lake event fee is much more than that. So in that regard, we would be at a net gain. But as far as the spectators, I really don't know. I know some of them, the races are quite large, but a lot of them are annual events, and so there's like kind of a following in these areas. I think we could, definitely market it as like kick off your, race month, come down and see some high-speed action at Lake Lemon.
I think there's some pretty good margins on it as well. There's not a whole lot that we have to set up. We would be getting the 2 on-lake special event fees. And just be kind of day tickets, really some food trucks. We've already got like the event going on there.
Yeah, and they were really saying like turn 1 would be right off the point, so people would be probably sitting out there because that's where they typically tend to, I don't know, crash or fly off the point. But they said also the timing booth would be on this point, so it would basically be an oval from point to point where they would race. So these 2 spots would be the best to spectate from, which works well. But yeah, as far as how many people would show up, I'm assuming like if I had a boat on the lake, I'd probably bring my pontoon out and watch it. But as far as draw, I think
it'd be a pretty good draw around here. When the speedway is packed, we could.
So wouldn't they do their own marketing though? Or do we have to market?
No, they would do, so when they race, if they're at like a park, the park does all the marketing. They basically just want to show up and run their boats. Yeah. So if there's people watching for them, they're excited. If not, they really could care less.
For some lake operational stuff, we are aware there's like buoys missing around the lake. I don't know what is destroying chains and buoys this year. We did just receive a big batch of like 12 buoys last week, so beginning of next week, me and Ross will be out replacing all the buoys, kind of like at the tip of Reed Point, and some more around the lake that have gone awry. So I haven't forgot about you, because every buoy that we came in, we put out an initial order, and then being in the season, it took like 5 weeks to get a second order of buoys. And next year, we are talking about increasing the budget just a little bit for buoys, so we can actually have a backlog and we're not waiting weeks to get these in stock out there. on the kind of safety aspect. And then with the park as well, we have purchased security systems for the park, cameras that will be going around the park because we have had increased vandalism, people partying after hours. So we have gotten those, and we're currently just waiting on our electrician to come out and run the wires and the mounts. So essentially, everything from coming to the gatehouse to out here at the beach, at the shelter house, will be on security systems moving forward as soon as we get those installed. And that's really just an effort to prevent. I mean, everybody knows that we had the incident a couple weeks ago, and that those people that came in about 9:30, 10 p.m. were just parking at the lake, and the incident occurred about 3 a.m. And it seems like that's been increasing in frequency. We have noticed too, just like vandalism out there as well. So thankfully, these will all have floodlights, motion sensors, alarms, ability to yell at people through the microphones if we get notifications on that. So really are kind of step up both for safety and just to kind of preserve the facilities that we have.
Are you monitoring them, or who's going to monitor?
So they have, it's like through like the ring systems and stuff, so you can pay them to monitor. I think initially we were just going to set them up and then kind of get them a little bit like the app is pretty well integrated. And actually I was over looking at Steve's system with the marina, and that's what really kind of turned me out of that, just like the easy use and the ability of that and the recording. So I think we'll start there. Then if we decide that we do need to have it, they have programs that have 24/7 monitoring notification on that. But I think just having the signage and actual visible cameras and like the spotlights will have a huge effect.
Being recorded, correct? For how long?
Correct. They're motion sensors, so whenever like a car comes in, it'll click record, and then yeah, something like that. And you can pay for more on that. So if we have an incident, we can go back, and then also motion sensing, so we could get notifications if it was 11 o'clock at night and stuff's going on here. So we're looking at that. We also have looked into the potential of on like busy weekends and stuff next year, have a little bit of budget to hire like a local like security service to come out here just in the evenings at close from like 6 p.m. until we have everybody out of the park. I don't know what's going on the past 2 years, but people are just very brazen and confrontational and entitled, and talking with the conservation officers. It's not just Lakeland, it is at all their parks, state parks, beaches, everywhere. So the issues are kind of going on everywhere. DNR has purchased a boat lift and dock to place behind an office over there in our equipment cove. So they're just waiting on that to get delivered. They do have a boat in hand. So at some point this season into the fall, we should see that boat arrive in the dock. And then definitely by next year, they will have a boat that will be permanently keeping on the lake, as well as a dock there. I think one of the biggest issues before is they have to trailer out, launch, and do all that. But now they're able to patrol the area more, and they can just jump on the boat and head out. So I think that will help a lot as well with the water, and they do monitor the park. So when they're here, they walk in the park as well. So should see some security enhancements.
Any questions for Adam? That brings us to new business and correspondence for future agenda. The next Lake Limit Conservancy District Board meeting will be July 20th here at the shelters, 10 a.m., Riddle Point Park. And as a reminder to everyone that you're welcome to join the annual picnic following the conclusion of this meeting. With that, immediately following the conclusion of this meeting.
Well, comment about drawdown. It's always been a controversial subject on the lake.
Sure.
The strategic planning committee said it was contraindicated to dredging, as Adam just said. Not all the areas on the Lake or River, especially in Malcolm and my area. The other concern is we only have 2 feet of water, like the gentleman sitting behind Steve there. Steve, you need your services. Guy with the hat on behind you. So, as we get closer to discussion, keep that in mind, that not all the lake is the same. Riprap, the level of the water, and so forth. Thought I had another point. That's it.
Thanks, Mike. I think good points to consider. Yes, Malcolm.
Today was a test of whether a sound system is helpful. What is the consensus? Was it worthwhile? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Malcolm, thank you for helping coordinate that. Any other final comments before we seek a motion to adjourn?
Lily should be here. I got confirmation 15 minutes ago. She's in route with the sandwiches.
So not
She's not here.
immediately
She'll be here in the
following.
next
About 15 to 20 minutes. Well, typically not public comment area, but yeah. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any?
Who got that second?
Yeah, Malcolm seconded. Steve, motion. Barring any objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Did I hear? We're going to have food trucks.